meeting to order. Oh, yeah.
Call the IT committee meeting to order. We don't have a quorum today, so this meeting will be for informational purposes only. Any public comments? So the main item of business today is the fiscal year 17 budget.
So I thought we should talk about what do you want included in the IT budget, because that'll happen towards the end of this month. There's a couple things I've done, and you have copies in front of you. One, Rusty is here to talk about the area-wide recommendations. And part of what I gave you is, I think I gave you, did I give you? No. The budget from last year and the list of things from last year. And kind of, Rusty will talk to, we didn't do a lot of their recommendations last year. Pretty much we gutted everything for IT, any of the advancement in IT that we had initially put in the budget. There are things from last year's budget that we said we had enough money to pay for half a year, so we're going to start July 1st. And so that's what you can see outlined, and that's what I wanted you to see from this thing from last year. So we're starting some new activities this year: email archiver, spam defense, workstation management, and then server patch management. So the server stuff we're really doing quarterly. We're just paying for it time and material, and it's in our regular service calls. So we've had that, we just did that last Veeam update last week or the week before. So we seem to be pretty current, would you say, Rusty, on the server?
Yes, that was for the virtual infrastructure, VMware, and yes, we are for that.
Okay. So we've been doing some of that stuff. Now, if you look on the lower right-hand side of this, you can see server maintenance, 20 hours a quarter, 7,200. We cut it down to, they could only have 15 hours a quarter, not the 20. And so we put in half a year, only half a year. So we put in a little bit for that. The security assessment we dropped out. That was $5,500. So we left a lot of the things out. The only thing that's going to be tricky, and Rusty will speak to it, he's got some new pricing. If you look at this little sheet, and you have copies of that, it's a lot smaller, the list this year. It's area-wide recommendations for this year. And it includes, for these things that we're starting now, any pricing adjustments for next year. So we have that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, and we'll do this after Rusty gets done presenting what area-wide has, I had, in my conversations with AT&T on renewing our Centrex contract, they provide other IT services. And one of them is a vulnerability scanning, where they actually set up a portal and they do a scan of all your IP addresses, and they have a proposal here to do that. It would be an alternate vendor to area-wide, so we should be aware of that. And we can talk about that once Rusty is finished. We'll start with Rusty and area-wide, and then we can talk about a little bit of detail about what this AT&T proposal encompasses.
Yes.
So take it away, Rusty.
Okay, so thank you. And so yes, basically we have items. If you look down here on your sheet, there's items approved for July 2016. That's for 6 months, or for the starting in the second half of the year, which would be this month. 15 hours times 4 quarters. So once a quarter, every 15 hours, we perform virtual infrastructure maintenance and maintenance on the hardware and the switching, the wireless infrastructure. Now, in addition to that, below that, another item that was approved, that was a high priority item, with server maintenance, patch management. Now what that is, that's for the Windows servers. So there's 18 Windows servers out there running various applications for different departments and for the infrastructure, log on, access control. This basically is automated Windows updates, patch management, and monitoring of these systems. This is critical, and it supplements the item above it of 15 hours per quarter. In addition to that, if you look at number 5, workstation management, that's 80 workstations times $3 a month. That's for Windows updates for the workstations. Currently, we don't have any control over how that process occurs, and we would like to be able to do that to reduce the amount of actual interaction with each device. Say a Windows update breaks a printer or breaks a system altogether, whatever. Sometimes Windows updates, if they're not managed properly, can cause an issue.
And one of the things, and I'm sorry to jump in,
Sure, no problem.
Jill, your thunder, this becomes an issue. Remember when we were having bandwidth issues, and we're maxing out our 10 megs? Maxing out our 10 megs. It's because every single workstation, right now what happens, every single workstation is going out to Windows once a week or whenever they deploy them and noticing there's updates, and they're bringing them in. So 80 workstations are going out and downloading them and then installing them. So what employees see is when they're logging off, don't turn your computer off, Windows updates available. What this item is talking about is that feature would be disabled on a workstation basis. Area-wide would go out, get the updates, and then deploy them to our network and to our workstations and ensure everything is up to date. So that seems to be a big advantage just in terms of the amount of bandwidth we're using. Also for security. Then you don't have 80 devices going out there on the internet, and the more you minimize that activity, I think the better off you are.
We know which devices are being updated. Right now we don't. We also have a central repository on site here that pulls those updates down once as opposed to 80 different devices.
And then the individual stations go and
get that from the central repository. And we did have an issue with that, now that I recall. We were, what's going on? It was a patch Tuesday, they call it, or the day after, it was a Wednesday or even a Thursday maybe. And we're all hitting the...
We had very difficult to do work. The network really was slowing down, and that was the reason once area-wide looked into it. So.
And this is a security feature as well, basically. These updates are security updates, so it's important to make sure that everybody is getting them, that we have the appropriate reporting on them. So those were presented last year. They're item as part of last year's budget approved for July 2016. We'd like to move forward with that. One item to note here, though, is email archive spam defense. Now, you're currently subscribed to Spam Defense, but the email archive price, that would be in addition to what you're paying now, has changed. Previously, the price would have gone up $325 per month for the service. Had it been subscribed last year, now it's total you would pay $8.95 a month per user for email archive and Spam Defense. And there's much more to the Spam Defense functionality. There's URL scanning, and it actually goes out and checks those, and attachment scanning. A lot of different security services are related to that. It's not just spam, it's email security, but the price is different, so that's something to know and be aware of.
It's a big ticket item.
Yep.
So
the email archive, explain that to me. That would be, we would save the email. Right now our email is being saved on the server.
On the mail server, yes.
And it's in our backup?
Yes.
Right? So what's the advantage to having this archive?
The email archive, it's basically immediate access, and it's discoverable a lot faster for, say, FOIA requests or basically retention as far as pulling out from a backup is basically always available. Say your mail server will go down, this service provides a mail server in case that were to occur. So it's basically like an emergency inbox feature as well, but it also holds the archive of your mail. You won't use as much storage on your email server as well because it'll be part of this mail would be archived. And
Okay.
it's basically reduced the amount of storage used, and in the end, the amount backed up if that were an issue. So
When they get archived, how old does it have to be?
you can set it to what you want it to be, say anything older than 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever works best. It's basically a configurable item. Regarding that, it would be something that you'd kind of want to look at your retention period and see what would be appropriate for county as far as the request.
So let me ask a question about this. So we would set it to where it would archive after a certain amount of time. There are a lot of emails, and I'm sure it's the same for everybody else, but right now it's budget time. So what I'm doing is going back to last year's emails and looking at what conversations occurred during budget time for this year's budget.
Right.
If it's archived, how hard is it going to be for me to find? Right now, I just go right back to that last year's
Sure.
budget, and there it is.
It's basically a searchable index from your Outlook or even a web portal.
Okay.
Now, as far as, does that help or is that?
So, yeah,
It's basically
even
the
someone
same.
like me can find it, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
if the email is ever in your Outlook, it's going to be cached there for as a searchable
Okay.
item. Now, currently, say something were to happen to the mail server, and we needed to restore a message from, say, 2 years ago, and it was deleted, the message was deleted by a user, we would be able to go in, currently we would have to pull in an external hard drive, pull in the server, spin it up, obtain the mail-to-mailbox database, restore the mailbox in question or the email. And that's a time-consuming process. An email archive just makes it immediately available in case something like that happens. Basically, we're looking at retention holds and litigation holds, is what they call them now. But basically, you don't want users deleting the mail on you either, and that's kind of protects you from that. So, whether it's intentional or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the new items I have.
Sure, and so basically, we still have the priority items of the virtual EQL. Number 1, Project Task, virtual EQL, that's Force 10, AdTran Unified Maintenance. That's actually one of the items approved for 2016 at the bottom there. And then the second one is server maintenance, patch management monitoring. That correlates to item 1 as well. The hardware, software, licensing, inventory. Basically, this is where we perform an audit of the entire network, make sure all the licensing is in compliance. In terms of Windows, so Windows licensing, basically we want to make sure all the servers are licensed, the Windows licensing, and we have the Office licensing. Basically, we want to make sure that you're in compliance as far as Microsoft licensing goes, because if you're not, then that can pose a problem later on as far as an audit of Microsoft. Each of these devices report some way back to Microsoft. So, that was just a one-time annual thing that we do normally for most of our clients. Some of them we can do quite once every 2 years, but we would recommend doing this annually. Number 3 is email archive, retrieval and spam defense. We already covered that, I believe. Is everybody happy with that?
So this would take the place of, currently I get a bill every month for $416 a month for spam defense, and
That would,
one is the $25 for the firewall, but the spam defense, and I forget the second item, those 2 items, but it's $416 a month, which is about just under $5,000. So we're saying $11,000, you recommend this, additional.
Yes, for the email archiving and spam defense, and basically the email security package. Yes.
So the integral difference is about $5,500.
Yes.
You're asking us to spend.
Yes.
Okay,
That's basically our pricing on it now.
okay.
Item number 4, do you want me to move on?
Yep.
Item number 4 is workstation maintenance. This is covered as an approved item for July 2016. And then a security assessment. This actually ties in with, this is basically a comprehensive security assessment, both externally and internally. And it basically does what that does and more.
He's referencing the AT&T
Sorry.
proposal.
Yeah. We would love to compete on that because we know your organization more than they do. We know the intricacies related to security and what might come up. Also, we would perform an internal scan. This is basically scanning external IPs.
Right.
And it's an automated
Right.
event. It's not really, while there are automated tools that allow you to complete a scan like that, we would actually review that scan in detail with you and make sure that we address any vulnerabilities out there. Also, we perform the scan internally to see what's open, what's going on internally on the network that we need to be aware of. Is there malicious behavior? Is there open ports or open services? Stuff like that. So basically, this is basically an annual security assessment. It's recommended every 3 years. I would like to review what we can do there to actually provide not a security assessment, but vulnerability scan externally and internally, ongoing, say every quarter or every month, and provide that report to you and actually go over that with you monthly and provide a budget item on that
Okay.
fall in line with what the service being offered there. Now, these are like priority items, and we just want to make sure we cover these. Now, moving on to the DR, the disaster recovery and the off-site backup.
That's the separate proposal right here,
This is a
which we talked about last year. It was on the list for last year, and we excluded it.
sure, yes.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, just some history, I guess, is the county took major steps in basically upgrade the server infrastructure, the network infrastructure, and while doing that, we took the steps to provide an off-site backup in the form of a hard drive that gets taken off-site every day by your staff, and we appreciate that. The only concern there is that's not an industry best practice or industry standard, and it really doesn't provide us a way to restore quickly in the event of a data loss event. We highly recommend a disaster recovery solution, which includes off-site backup. And this proposal here basically provides that totally. It's not just a phase, but it's the entire solution in one for all 18 servers. So basically, what we would do is we would bring in the hardware and software, configure the device, place it in the location in the courthouse, make sure that the infrastructure is there. I imagine the electrical's there for what we need here. There wouldn't be a large expense to that. The HVAC should be there. I think that room's cool enough, but we would want to review that. As far as the generator capacity at that site, we would need to review that as well. But this basically accomplishes a long-time goal for the county to have an off-site backup that's readily available, meets security and data retention best practices. Basically, you want to make sure you have information security and the ability to retain data quickly. So,
So it would copy everything over, it would back up everything over to the back basement of the courthouse?
yes, originally, yes, basically, we take the data constantly, and it just basically replicates over the fiber directly to the courthouse, which is on a server that has redundant storage in itself and built-in redundancies, and that data is always available. It's never, basically, so if the data or...
Is it real time? Would it be real time then?
Yes, basically, so if there were an issue at the admin center where the data wasn't accessible or there were a problem, we would have the data available on that disaster recovery site.
So I think what he's asking is, does it occur, you know, right now, we run a backup
Sure.
every night,
Yes.
right? Three of them. And they
Right.
print or read to the old Exchange server.
Right.
And then to an external hard drive.
Yes.
Then the next day when we come in, Amanda takes
Yes.
that external drive and unplugs it and takes it to the bank.
Or you think you're backing it up?
Right. Right. See, the current system, right.
Well, right.
What this offers us as well is the ability to check our restores. Basically, we have the server up and running, we can see if it's there and backed up. Currently, we'd have to bring in a hard drive, dedicate time and resources to actually restoring the server, verifying the data's there, and if there were an event, say a data loss or deletion or something where we had to bring the data back in, we would have to spin up that server and maybe pull the data off.
So we had an instance not too long ago, maybe a week or so ago, where we had a crash at my work, and then it became a question of you had to start picking days, and they wouldn't work, or they're going back.
Yep.
And one day at a time until you find something that works, and everything in between there is gone.
That's exactly what we want to avoid. And I feel like we have a system in place that allows that. The Veeam we have virtualization backup software that runs to these external hard drives. But yes, we want
But
to...
we were being told we were 2 hours. We were always just 2 hours away.
Right. And you think about and think about it this way: if we bring in those hard drives, they're USB, so the transfer rates are so slow that we would be waiting on that answer, 2 hours away, or
Well, we
whatever
always
it
thought we
takes.
were just, within
Right.
2 hours of our last backup.
Right.
That's not true.
Yeah.
But one proved back not true.
Yeah.
So that's why this replication would be just like a stack of hard drives that
Right.
ready to go all the time.
Yes, basically they're synced.
But we're doing it with
Yes,
Surface.
yes. Basically it syncs the data over every, whatever.
So would it run a dedicated fiber on one of those extras we put in, or?
It could, but we would just use what you have because that's not saturated, that's not, and basically, once it does its initial copy of all the data, it's going to be very limited as to what it's copying. It's just going to copy new data over.
Changes.
So it's going to be very quick, and it's that fiber length can handle quite a bit. I think it's going to be.
But the total cost is 30. We got plug in 30.
So yes,
32.
if you look at it, so for the hardware and licensing, it's $27,289.95, and then the shipping is $64.95, and then the labor is basically, it's $4,000. It's probably about 35 to 45 hours of.
Let's back this all the way
Yeah,
up.
sure.
Anita, so, I just so understand this. So originally, when we were talking about this stuff, I always viewed it in terms of, as far as a managed care, or managed services, would be the correct term. So we manage services, and then capital improvements, and then I'm going to categorize another one just for this, because it's things with license. The license, that's a huge number every year. So, one thing I don't want to get away from is, we were always going to keep putting in, so otherwise you get 10 years down the road and
Right.
you purchase everything.
And that is why I wanted to give you the sheet of, this is the inventory as of a year ago. There hasn't been a lot of replacement that I'm aware of within the network. But it's a list of all the printers that I know of, all the workstations throughout the entire network. And if you look at this, I didn't highlight all of yours, but there's quite a few that have dates, replacement dates, all of probation, all of circuit clerk, 2012, which means they're already 4 years old. If they don't get replaced next year, that's 5 years, that's long, right?
You know what? But we don't have any say-so of those departments.
No,
We provide them...
guidance, suggestions.
Well, it's kind of a tough situation because we're providing a lot of services,
Mhm.
so they really need to hold up their end of the deal
Mm-hmm.
with the equipment.
Yeah, but the point being, right, there are a lot here
Yes.
that are getting older.
Our fail-safe, though, is at some point to become non-compliant because the software can't go on.
Yes, and that would be, Windows 7 would be 2020, is when that is end of life, which is similar to XP when that came in.
So
here,
in 2020, let's just fast forward.
Sure.
If we don't gradually plug that stuff in, and the department
Right.
heads, we're going to be stuck with a big bill again.
Right.
And I kind of, Anita and I discussed this briefly. Basically, what we talked about is area-wide needs to approach that office to discuss that with them and actually get approval to replace those workstations.
Yeah,
correct?
encourage them. I did talk to, I am going to have decided that when I send out the budget worksheets, which will be within the next week, I'll put a note on there to address the age. And I've got the list here I can tell about, which they know, and recommend they include in their automation funds replacement of these dated computers. I did talk to one office holder already this morning who said, yeah, I don't think ours are very old. And I said, well, they're already 3, they're going to be 4 years next year. Well, that's not old. Yes, in terms of a workstation, it is old. And she goes, well, I have one that's running Windows 98. 98?
Yeah, we
That's
need to
not
share
good.
that then.
That's
Right.
a museum.
That is a problem.
I'm not sure what.
That from an office holder's perspective, as long as it works, we plug it in and it works.
That thing
Good
can't
enough.
interface with the
I really hope not. We've completed some scans just to actually get information regarding.
It's got to be a standalone.
I'd expect so, but we should.
I think it is a standalone. I think we addressed that last year when we tried to sundown all those, and that's part of it. A year ago, was it a year or was it last fall? We went through this whole big thing where I sent out emails and said, we think you have a 98. It's putting our network at risk. We need it out. We need it off the network.
Yes.
And lo and behold, we still have one out there.
Yes.
And all we need is a vulnerability in one office,
Yeah.
and the whole network's at risk.
So back to my question. So, do we need to figure out exactly, target the total spend and then break it down into these categories? Like the licensing, we're either going to have, that's a fixed cost.
Right. The licensing is in, if you look at this, and you're right, it goes up every year. For this year, it is now over $40,000,
Is that
$41,250.
something you can negotiate for us for a split or something like that?
I can talk with.
So let's say you knock it down 10 grand and we share that.
Yeah.
Save it. You
Yeah.
guys take half, we take half.
I can look into that, yes.
Is that something we can do legally?
Oh, I don't. I'm talking about the discount, the discount.
No, I mean, it's in my
basically,
opinion, it's money for nothing.
it's Microsoft licensing and there. We get the price we get on. Let me
Let me throw a
at
couple
least
other things by you. So,
make a call.
some things I've done at
Sure.
my employment to make things less painful. So for instance, your seats of something like Pro-E or SolidWorks.
Mm-hmm.
Those seats are like a SolidWorks seats $5,000 and Pro-E seats 15,000 seats.
Right.
So the problem is, let's say we purchase 3 seats, we never have enough of these things.
Right.
And you take a person like me, I don't do full-fledged designing on that, but I would like to have a copy of that so I can read my customer.
Right.
So what we figured out is we created a floating one, or several floating ones, that as long as it's not being used, you can grab it. So 10 people can use it, even though you're only paying for one.
Right.
I mean, are there things here we can sit through and see if there's, let's say the usage is only 10%, that you're on there per day, it could be shared abroad.
Well, I understand where you're coming from regarding like SolidWorks. So, just to back up a little bit, you just want to view, right? You just want to view that customer?
No, I want
you want to
to
access.
access
Okay.
it.
Well, as far as Microsoft is concerned, a license has to be committed to that device that it's installed on. Same with Microsoft Office, and same with the Windows Server licenses. And then we have the client access licenses. That's per user. Basically, any user that's going to connect to the network has to have a license. And then you have printers that connect to the server device. Any other like network attached device that uses the server for basically anything has to have a client access license. And then Microsoft Exchange, which is the email server. Basically, there's a client access license for that as well. So, yes, we have to have those licenses for each user that's using that software.
And how much is it for the license? 40 something?
This year, $41,250.
So, okay, 41, let's just say 41,000. So then, on the managed services from the track record we have with Rusty, what do we anticipate managed services at?
That's the service contracts line. Why did I say this year? It's been running. 2013 was our first year, and that was $37,340. 2014, $35,000 for.
So it's roughly $300 to $3,500 a month. So let's just say
It's way down this year. I'm going to tell you, this year we're running about $1,000 to $1,500 a month.
Less?
It's all we're running in terms of service calls with area-wide. I think at
So
this
here's what I'm going
point,
to say to that. So if you add the two, if you add our capital expenses and our managed services, I'll guarantee you those are about the same, because what you spend on the one is going to bring the other one down, and vice versa. You let your
Right.
equipment go bad,
Right.
you're going to pay Rusty more. You keep your equipment up to date, you're going to pay Rusty less.
and that's exactly
So
what
that
we
is
keep.
the other reason I think we should keep the equipment purchases through area-wide and entice these department heads to purchase their equipment through him for that reason. As long as it's competitive.
Yes, I mean, basically, we placed 100 workstations, and we use a Dell product that's excellent, and we rarely see a failure as far as hardware with those, but I think, when we have, once or twice,
Right.
at a place like that.
Nobody's ever complained about the hardware from area-wide.
The performance.
Not the performance. I have an office that won't, they purchase their workstations from Tiger Direct.
Well, when that happens, maybe when they need them worked on, they can go contract that as well.
Yeah, they're having difficulties in that.
Because the stuff
Right.
that Rusty is speccing will automatically be the proper
Right,
configuration for the network.
right.
Normally.
So what are you going to guess those managed services at?
For next year?
Yeah, so they're like 30K?
Are you pretty labor?
Yeah, the service labor, just the ongoing service
Sure.
tickets. I think I'm going to look at my trends, but I'm going to put in maybe $1,500 a month times 12 would be 18. I would say 15 to 18 grand for next year. Don't you think?
I would expect so. The only concern I have now.
Yeah, but does that include, that doesn't include these projects?
No, it does not include the project.
So then there'd be another line called
Yeah,
assets and
that's usually
contract labor.
in systems expense. We put those in there, or we put those in the IT fund.
What I have here is kind of in addition to what you already have. So,
Right.
with the age of the workstation is going up, we might see a few more calls.
Right.
So we've got 41 on the license, 18K on the managed services, and then the projects and capital improvements would be, there should be a remainder based on the total allotted, that's what's left.
Right.
So that's what projects we can do with what,
I mean, for this 31, We just don't have funding for that. We would have to go to the department heads, elected officials, and ask if they want to contribute
I'll say it
to...
again, this automation fund, that's what it's intended for.
Right, right.
So,
I think it's important that your department heads know where their data backup is going and where,
Right.
you know, the retention and the level of restorability we have now compared to what we could have, you know, that they're all accountable for this data as well, right?
and I've asked this before, is there any way that can be proportioned, that we ask for those funds proportionally, meaning per workstations or per use? I don't know a fair way to do that between...
We did do that. I mean, literally, that's how we funded the server project. We had area-wide look at the amount of activity, and then we went to those departments and asked them to contribute.
So the backup would be same thing on data, because data's what you're paying for.
Basically, yes, we could basically take the existing resources, there's 18 servers, and divide those up per department, and then come up with a way to, for the centralized services, the log-on servers, the DNS servers, the servers everyone uses, and kind of present a number for you to divide up there as well. But yeah, basically, that can be done. It's just, yeah, we would need to spend a little bit of time doing that, but
There's
acceptable.
18 servers.
18 servers.
And how many departments?
Ooh, there's, well, you know, we have 107 users. I think there's like at least 10 departments, right? We have your office. 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, sorry, 12. I think 12 off the top of my head.
Yep. I'd have to remember.
Right.
So,
In terms of groups of users,
yeah,
that's how I'm kind of,
it's, you know, and this is their data. It's extremely important for them to be able
Right.
to access that.
but I mean, you've got some departments, like, let's say, well, assessment, finance. We have no other source of funds than general fund. Courts is another one that really doesn't have another source of funds. So we would have to fund that through the general fund.
Who's the biggest use of data?
Oh, that's a
Right.
good question. You're saying, what's
I'm
that?
saying 911.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the larger, I mean, I would expect as far as raw data use, as far as files and folders,
Do they have they don't have an automation?
No.
there's the circuit clerk as well, and the state's attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, these offices all, you know, there's so there's a file server with all the files, and then there's different servers for different applications in their department. So we would have to itemize it. So, which isn't an issue, I don't know. Possibility. When we talk about disaster recovery and backup, off-site backup, it's extremely important that your senior management, your elected, they all take a role in this and have some approval, you know, so. The animal control system.
Yeah. That's got to be small, though, right?
Yeah. I don't, we should discuss that a little bit further, because we've created a server for them, that's remote access, not.
Yeah. Right. So now these additional needs, I don't think we talked about that at all, Rusty. What is,
Well, these are just leftover from last year. Basically, Data room cable management, you've seen that. We've had to go in there and take out cables just to remove the power or whatever. The projects that we've completed over time have left some cabling there that we need some raceways and, proper management. So we don't smash the fiber cable or something like that, which...
We were concerned about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was
We
concerned
thought we
about
did
it.
it.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't that because
Right.
it was a quick fix, right? Or not so quick, but IC Exchange thin provision, that's the mail server. That was just something left over, but you have enough data right now to get by without doing this. It's just something we should do if you ever run out of storage space, but you have a lot now. So, remove additional hardware, wipe erase, configure switches, wipe remove servers. Those are back there still. I think that's just
Yes.
whenever we do that, we can pull the drives we can hear just as long as they're secured. I think that's important. That will remove the wipe fee, but we still want to recycle them somehow. And you talked about a way that might...
Yeah, we did talk about it. I don't know if that's going to happen or what the time frame is, but that may occur just countywide.
Sure.
So we may do that then. Or, go ahead.
One other thing you brought up was the workstation replacement and planning ahead. And, we've had a plan to replace devices so they don't get old and we don't have excessive service calls or hours spent on service calls.
So how many are on there that need replaced next year?
I'd say probably 5 maybe. There's a
Is there any type of deal we can make with you that if we do all 25 at one time,
Yeah.
you purchase?
I believe you.
So then we put that out to the department heads, listen, it's going to be X if,
Mhm.
and it'll be done within this time frame, but the purchase will be made all at one time.
I believe the first time we did this, it was the circuit clerk,
And probation.
probation,
Yep.
and the courtrooms. I believe.
And then we tagged on one for treasurer
Yes.
as well at the end.
And then later that year, the treasurer's office replaced some.
Yep.
So they're all going to be due this
Right.
coming year.
Right.
One is, yeah. I think the circuit clerk and probation will be due at the end of the year,
Right.
November,
Right.
if I remember correctly.
Those were November of 2012, so they'll be up 4 years this year.
So treasurer.
All of them in the department?
Mm-hmm. They
See,
did
that's where they
everything.
should get their department split up with half and half.
Right.
They should do at least half this year and half next year, something like that.
Yeah, we're going to start to spread them out, so there's
No, don't know.
rolling.
So yeah, that's the treasurer, maybe not in 2017, but 2018, they'll be at 5 years almost. So
Right. Right.
Possibly.
So how do we get this across to them, that this list of workstations, do we highlight them red, yellow, green? The red, orange, yellow, green?
Can do
I
that.
think we're in the yellow area with the ones that are coming due in November. We will be by that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Just so they can plan a little bit.
Right.
Not, because if they miss it, put it in the budget. then-
Right. That's right.
well, what we come up with is if they don't do it this year, we're looking at double that number in all the other departments that have replaced their workstations as well. We'll
Right.
have to replace 40 or something like
And
that.
then at the same time, do we need to remind them that we'd like to ask for solutions on this backup? Excuse me. The 32K, how we're going to fund that. If you just, look at a quick pyramid on that, you could have maybe a couple departments in the $6,000-7,000 range, and then some $3,000 contributions, quite a few more $1,600 ones, and then down to a few $100 if it's proportioned out by data usage to get the 32K. It might not be that big a deal. But what I don't like all the time is when, the circuit clerk just covers everything, covers so many people, and they all pay their share.
So what I can come up with is an itemized list of use by department, or try to,
Right.
based on what I know.
Percentage-wise. I mean, it'd be good to know anyway, we could apply that
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Gigabytes and users and percentages. That makes sense.
And that's how we'll ask to fund 32K.
We're gonna have to move on from the hard drives at some point. It's just, if you have
To do
the
what,
data-
go to the cloud?
No, to go to DR. Basically, right now, we're doing these external hard drives, they're just not something we use anywhere anymore. I don't know. It's like, we have some clients that still use them and take care of it personally, but it's just something we recommend against. As far as availability and,
When we step up to this, we don't have to even...
right, you don't have to worry about it anymore, so we need to get over, and this was just a temporary measure, because, there was a huge capital expense for the server infrastructure project and the
Right.
network. So this kind of got pushed back a little bit, but
So is
it's
this the
always been a
last
temporary
major thing
measure.
we have to do?
I believe so, as far as...
Okay, then give me a 2-year outlook. What has to start happening after that?
Well, Anita and I have been talking, and one of the things that will come up 3 years from now, or 4 years from now, is the SAN replacement in the compute nodes, or the servers that you replaced in 2012. Now, we see those that have 6 to 8 years, maybe a life of 8 years, say, but instead of replacing all that at once, you're going to eventually want to start replacing the nodes, the server, you have 3 servers now, and you'll want to add one, and you'll keep the other 3.
And then just start dropping them off as they...
If you need to. The thing is, we can find other uses for them as we move forward. One of the issues that kind of coincides with this is the usage, the resource utilization. We've added servers to the existing infrastructure. The server infrastructure project was designed to meet resource utilization needs at the time. We've added a few servers to the health department. So as far as utilization goes, we could benefit from another server, which would help us introduce more power opposed to the server that was purchased in 2012. And then
And
also cover...
What's the server cost, 10 to 15?
Well, I would estimate about 12 with install, based on the spec.
Then we should plug that in for next year.
That's something that I didn't put it on this list, but I definitely wanted to bring up here to see what you thought of it. Maybe next year when we sit down and talk about this.
I think we've got to stay on keeping this up to date so we don't get...
Sure.
So I just want this budget level loaded, so every year there's X amounts. Like I said, it's pretty simple. You've got managed services, your projects, which consist of labor, contracted labor and capital improvements, and then the licensing, which is a fixed cost. So we level load that
Now,
so it can be managed whether Russ and I are here or not.
okay. And that's excellent. It's, if we add this host, this server, to take care of future needs and address any aging issues, we would come back in another year and add another one, or maybe and add another one after that, and then you wouldn't have to find it for a few years, and then you'd want to talk about replacing those. However, in 4 to 6 years, we're going to talk about replacing the SAN as well, which is a major purchase. So, but you're not replacing however many disparate servers that were out there before at the high labor costs and hardware costs. I guess that's the benefit of virtual infrastructure is you only have 3 servers and a SAN to take care of, and that's just what we need to take care of to address any issues with aging. Does that make sense, or is that yeah? I see you shaking your head, so I kind of wonder what you're thinking. Is it?
Yes, risk management, all it is
Yeah.
is risk management.
It is.
risk management.
All I
Buying
keep looking
insurance.
at the 41K, that's the worst spend of the whole thing because it's money for nothing.
Well, it's just making sure we got everything backed up.
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about...
the licensing, oh, yeah, well, because you're using their stuff, you gotta pay them their royalty.
Yep.
And you know, that's what everybody uses.
Update, my God, you can see what you're talking about there. How much is updates are really any benefit? Looks like a bunch of advertising getting sold, but
Well,
you gotta do it.
let me give you an example. Windows 10 is being pushed out right now, and the user can go out there and click update to Windows 10 on their computer. Fortunately, we haven't had that yet, I don't think. But if they did, we're talking about hours of reinstalling the operating system for them. We have no way to manage those type of updates without investing the resources and time.
I want to control that, anyway. But, yeah.
So this is kind of what Area Wide has presented. If we look at what AT&T, and I think you have that. You have it here. Right. And Rusty just saw this right before we walked in here. We just talked very briefly about it, but it is a quarterly vulnerability scanning. They would scan, and Rusty's correct, from the outside. They would scan. We'd have access to a portal and an analyst. They would run a scan, and that scan would have kind of a dashboard that would tell me what hardware, maybe, is at risk.
Port services are open.
Right. If certain workstations need patches, if there's malware residing on a workstation that we don't know about, if there's a firewall update that's missing, if there are SQL vulnerabilities identified, etc.
So back in a second. So why is it that you don't do this?
We do offer this. But yes, and we offer, see, this is an external scan. You have invested in what we call a next generation firewall, both here and at the Highway Department, and they're called Unified Threat Management, Advanced Threat Protection. Basically, this device blocks any of that vulnerability scanning. It's not going to see anything. It's not going to see an issue because the firewall is not going to let it. It's basically doing what it's supposed to. It's keeping your network secure from external attacks or breaches. Now, we can do vulnerability scans every month or every 3 months on your IP addresses, but those IP addresses are assigned to your firewall. So the firewall basically says who can come in and who can go out. Now, when you get those results from AT&T, your analyst is going to maybe tell you a little bit about them or explain what they are, but you're going to have to send them to us to fix them.
Right, that's right.
And, you know, we're going to know what is legitimate vulnerability and what isn't. See, a lot of times you get false positives with these scans, so we have to weed out those as well. Say, an open port that needs to be open for a reason, or
And
anyway.
A lot of what they talked about was missing patches, missing updates, etc. The addition of the server maintenance and then workstation management in this budget would address those issues right now. What AT&T said to me is, well, we do this a lot where you have outsourced IT, and it's just a way for us to work hand in hand with your outside resource, and you've got double check that everything's being done the way it should. You're not reliant on one vendor. That is part of what they sell, is peace of mind that your managed services vendor is providing everything that should be provided. Is that worth it for the first year, $4,300, $4,600 the first year, and $3,700 2 years after that? It is a 3-year contract, so overall it's $12,000 over 3 years.
And
Right.
your amount would be?
Well, you bring up basically, we're not just, this is a different service.
Right.
They're just offering an external. They're saying they'll find workstations or SQL injections, but they're not going to see any because all these devices that have this equipment are on the other inside of your firewall. Now, what we want to offer is a vulnerability scan externally and an internal scanning.
Either side of the firewall.
Yeah, so...
See, another way you can look at this, then you've got another set of eyes looking at your stuff you don't need to look at. You know,
Right. They're saying it as an advantage. Well, it's true, it is an advantage, but it's also, for every advantage, there's a disadvantage.
Another,
We're letting somebody else in to see our stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, one thing that's missed here is part of our service is basically a penetration test, which is actually a live human trying to get into your system. But we would definitely need to go over details in that before we did something like that. But
Right.
I mean, I want to be competitive on the service just because I think we can offer it and do much better than they do. As far as, I mean, we have a working knowledge of the security already in this network, and so we're concerned just as much as
Right.
anyone else. Another thing is, I think, working with Anita and the committee, we could come to an understanding as to what these security issues are, and maybe become more knowledgeable and have more insight into the workings of, I mean, information security is huge, it's a big deal, whether it's
well, I guess I'm
unintended
just
or
still
intended or
confused on
malicious
this,
activity.
this AT&T for the money. We're supposed to have this closed box here with firewall all the way around. So they're going to check what? I mean,
They're going to run against, basically these IP addresses are assigned to your firewall. They're thinking they're assigned to servers and everything else. Well, they're going to be hitting a firewall that's going to be seeing their scans and basically
shut it off.
making them inactive. Yes, it's going to...
And then they're going
block
to give
their
us
scans.
an A1 report because they didn't find anything.
Possibly.
$4,000.
Yeah, and it's...
They make a
not-
lot of proposals to businesses that they can do this really good, and then the service guys come out and go, we're supposed to be doing what?
I think they...
We can't do that, or you already got this.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's just basically a service they offer, and they want to provide it.
And they did talk to me about some of the other services, the penetration services, where they're trying to actually access our network, and then they tell us. The prices for those were not something that I thought the committee would consider at this time, so I did tell them we're not really interested in that.
I think before you invest in something like this, I'd like to offer a solution that does both external and internal, but I'd also like to look at hardening some of the internal systems. Say your file server. Anytime somebody accesses a file, that's not logged, but we could set up something like that, centralized logging that, say, we can see if somebody was trying to do something malicious and actually audit that activity. Because that's what you're going to really be concerned about, somebody internal.
Right.
There are external threats, but we've covered that on the firewall level, so that's really good. I can't, compliment you enough on, the firewall. I mean, that's really a critical piece of your network. We talk about, as far as security, it's multi-layer. It's firewall, antivirus, spam defense with URL scanning, the backups, access control, logging.
VPNs are all really a form of security too.
Right, and we don't have very many VPN users. We just have one or two. And then there's a site-to-site, probably. Yeah, there's a tunnel between the highway department and here, but I want to, I guess it's a security issue, you want to.
This is kind of cut down. I don't know, but in our class, this is kind of cut down the need for me to log on, get home, use
Right.
Yeah, emails become obsolete.
That's
stuff on the phone.
That's another thing is mobile device management. Does the county issue cell phones? I don't think they do. Do they have iPads?
Yeah, we have them at the health department. They have cell phones, probation, sheriff, highway. So there are some around.
We should really talk about that as well. Basically, these are all layers. Protecting each of the antivirus, the firewall. These are all important as far as information security. I think this external vulnerability scan takes away resources from what we could be doing internally for major or glaring holes that we already see.
There should be a setup procedure that automatically channels them. Like with my work email, that requires my phone to have a password. I can't use that phone without a password.
The email or the phone?
The phone?
Yeah, we don't actually manage the phone, so if we had a phone...
So that,
say if they went to
whatever
us-
your Outlook settings are,
Yeah.
you can't get in this thing. You either got to fingerprint it or type in a code. Just because, and if I take my work email out there, then there's no lock on it.
It's interesting. That's mobile device management, and we offer that, but it's just something that we haven't actually even gotten to yet. If we probably should actually do that.
I just thought it was something that came with the phone, but obviously that's a setting in the...
Yeah, it makes you have the access control code on your phone and encrypting the phone and having a virus scanner on the phone, which, you know, if you get a personal phone, you really don't even think about it. You know, I don't think so, but anything that's owned by your organization or managed or provided by organizations should be protected because it ends up being on the Wi-Fi. See, this phone goes on the health department Wi-Fi and it has some malware. Well, it can jump from there to somebody's workstation or something that's not protected and then cause a real event. We are aware of these things, so we would like to, basically we do an external scan, an internal scan, penetration testing, but also invest some time configuring some logging, auditing, so we can be aware of these things. But mobile device management is another thing that could be added as well. Solution. Do you know what the name of your solution is? Does it say anything besides Outlook and?
It's Microsoft Exchange.
Yeah, same for.
And then it's just however, you know, there's just 3 things you type in, your domain, and then when you do that,
Your phone has a
next time you
code.
have your phone, it says you have to use a password, develop a password.
So, they're all part of like what we call a defense in depth strategy. All these little tools, and it really, it's like what's that? Yes, yeah. It's a trade-off between confidentiality and availability.
Okay.
The major thing is, you know, as far as the security and data protection is having a backup somewhere that's easily obtainable, restorable, and using industry standards and best practices. So that's the major thing we're talking about today, the DRI, and then these other services cover that as well. The maintenance, further security updates, that kind of thing. Now, if I can go back to the email archive and spam defense, that also includes, that would include encryption. So right now, if you send an email, that can be actually read by a man in the middle, basically, is what we call it, or it's not, the information within is not encrypted by default. Well, the email encryption allows you to send certain things that you might not normally send through email channels. So that's another feature of the service.
Well, it looks like the bottom line. Yeah, we got to send it to the budget people and see what...
Right.
We thought we was moving pretty good last year.
We did get cut, yeah.
But there was reasons that you could argue all day.
Well, I mean, like I said, we know 41K in licensing, 18 and managed services, and then it's just the labor and capital, or labor and the assets of the capital goods. And then the 32, we're going to address that separately.
Right, so what I have on my notes is that I'll take this hardware list and mark the departments red, yellow, green, send it with their budget to say, look at this, if you should include replacement of your workstations this year, please address, or next year.
As a friendly reminder.
Right. And then Rusty's going to do an analysis of usage by department that we can use, and I'll send a separate email from everybody's...
And that's just to determine the allocation by data.
Right.
Data using the actual data sizes, percentages, maybe even department, department breaking, yes. Yeah.
So I'll send that next week when I'm putting together a budget worksheet to go out next Monday or Tuesday. So I'll put an extra separate one saying regarding the IT budget.
Mhm.
So,
So, for me to analyze this, what kind of timeline you thinking this week?
Monday?
Okay.
Can I get it Monday?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I should have it. That's really fast.
Trying to be nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, that's good. I really needed us to meet to give me some guidance on what to include or what not to include, and then so I can also provide feedback to AT&T. That is where, thank you very much for your time.
Can I add one more comment to that?
Yeah.
I think before we invest in something like that, I think it would be important to actually create a security policy that dictates whether these things are done or whether mobile devices are managed or password
Right.
reset policies, opening mail attachments, user education, stuff like that. Just because it's important to, that's kind of like the tail wagging the dog, saying some of these things that we do, but we want to kind of, a policy should be dictating everything we're doing. However, we kind of know what we're doing. We do know what we're doing by implementing firewall, antivirus. It's just a security policy should probably be drafted and living at some point.
Yeah, and that is one thing we really haven't. We're not doing that.
Yeah. Loose.
Yeah,
It's like, we kind of had, we're aware of what you need at this
right.
size of an organization. It's just, you do a scan like this, what are we looking for, It's
Right.
like, what are we going to do about it when we get there? Well, this user's doing this, is this acceptable for the policy or not, and a lot of management there, so.
Right.
And there's no way to get these licenses reduced,
I'll ask about it.
negotiate.
I'll ask.
Tax deal.
Think about it, you get 5,000 off the 41K or get it to last year's levels, and that's more we'll spend on getting these projects done. I'd sooner spend it with him than Microsoft. Crazy.
Yeah, and they go up every year.
Of course,
The fees.
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
because they can.
because they can't. Great.
Do you use any Oracle products at your shop, or Oracle? Their licensing is brutal.
Yeah.
But anyway, we won't get into that too much.
That's why I'd like you to come by and
Well, is everything clear, kind of, as far as what we discussed today? Have I answered your questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're,
Okay.
well, thank you for having me, and your wife. I appreciate your...
Here, you give us information.
Thank you.
any other IT issues? If none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion, sir.
So moved.
No motions.
No motions.
Yeah, let's-
Meeting adjourned.